of $3.2 million worth of computer microchips from a company called Monolithic Memories. Well, 2020 has learned that the chips may already have passed through West Germany on their way to the Soviet bloc, possibly to Russia itself. Microchips to Russia. Well, such traffic in microchips would be serious business, directly involved with espionage. And here with a report on this is John Stossel. John?
Thanks, Hugh. Today's Russian spy isn't likely to be the cloak and dagger type of the James Bond movies. He's more likely to be a scientist, because it's science he wants to steal. And he's stealing quite a lot of it.
Last year, just off the east coast of the United States, a fisherman pulling up his nets discovered not just fish, but a buoy, similar to this one, but strange looking. The fisherman reported his find, and the U.S. Defense Department came to check it out. They concluded it's a Russian spy buoy, planted off our coast to guide Russian submarines. The machinery inside the buoy, sophisticated electronic circuitry of American design. Now, what are American-designed parts doing inside a Russian buoy?
The answer is in California, south of San Francisco, here in what's known as the Silicon Valley. Called that because of the dozens of companies here that make what's known as the silicon chip.
This is the chip, and one of these, smaller than a quarter, can do what a few years ago would have taken a room full of computers to do. These microchips are now used in video games, home computers, electronic toys. They're changing the way we live, and maybe the way we will die. The microchip is the brain of modern weapons, so far mostly our modern weapons. The AWACS, for example. This awkward-looking plane is just a Boeing 707 with a radar dome on top and computers using microchips inside. You need sophisticated chips because today's jets move so fast, no person would ever have time to see one, aim at it, pull a trigger, and hope to hit it, so the computer does all that. When the AWACS radar spots something, the computer compares it to what it's seen before and decides if it's enemy, what kind, how fast it's moving, and radios that to computers on fighter planes. Those computers do the aiming and shooting, though a human being pushes the button. And then there's what this Defense Department consultant calls
smart weapon systems. I launch a missile. The missile has its own internal computer. The missile can discern on the ground whether or not that is a tank, a truck, or a personnel carrier, and make its mind up which has the most priority and direct itself. They're called smart weapon systems. What makes that able to happen, all right, is that little chip right there. The only way we're going to candidly whip the Soviet Union is by technology. They outman us, outplane us, outgun us, outship us, outsubmarine us. And this is the one thing we got going for us.
And the Russians would like to have it going for them. North of Silicon Valley, on a hill in one of the nicest parts of San Francisco, sits the Russian Consulate.
The consulate in San Francisco has how many employees?
The last count we believe to be about 60.
How many do they need to do legal, legitimate work?
Maximum of 20.
They need 20, they have 60.
Correct.
What do the other 40 do?
Overt and covert technology, high technology, intelligence gathering operations.
Spying?
Yes.
Not spies in the conventional sense. These spies are high technology scientists. Scientists because it's science they want to learn about. And where do they go to learn about it? Well, our society is very open. The Russians can get into technical trade shows where companies show off their latest work. They can read magazines like Aviation Week, often called Aviation Leak because of all the technical information it reveals. And the Russians also get information in bars. Bars, officials told us, like the Rodeo, Charley Browns, here at the Bold Knight. Silicon Valley bars where high-technology workers unwind after work.
Where do you work?
Applied Technology, a subsidiary of GE.
Where do you work?
Data General.
Lockheed.
What do you work with?
Select conductors, capacitors.
With the data system.
Programmable test equipment.
Is this stuff that the Russians would like to have?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So how do they get it?
Generally, they look for somebody who has a major financial problem. Foreign agent might say, hey, We can pay you.
How much?
Pay anything from $500 to $3,000 to $5,000. Once there has been a financial transaction, they've got them. Because they will have either filmed it, taped it, so then they have a means to blackmail.
People in the bars have heard about it.
And just hear that, you know, there are spies around who try to get information and sell it to anybody that'll buy it, including the Russians.
Nobody's ever offered you any money.
No.
What would you do if they did?
Well, I'd run.
Many people didn't. William Bell, Hughes aircraft engineer, sentenced to 8 years on espionage charges for selling defense information to a Polish agent, Marian Zakharski. Christopher Boyce stole secrets from TRW and sold them to the Russians. He got 40 years. Joe Helmish took $130,000 from the Russians in exchange for code secrets. He was sentenced to life in prison last year. Tony Maluda, 5 years and a $60,000 fine for shipping high-tech equipment to the Russians. Some spy cases were discovered by local police. Investigating thefts from the Intel Corporation, they thought they were dealing with simple American thievery. But when they caught a former Intel employee, they found among his papers a business card from the Soviet consulate in San Francisco, and a number of technical contacts in Moscow as well.
And so you, local police, working on a local crime,
Right.
and you end up breaking up international spy rings.
Yes. It's what we call dumb luck.
Sometimes the Russians would buy the high technology instead of stealing it. It's illegal to export it directly to Russia, so the Russians get the goods via front companies.
An example, we heard from one of our sources that there was a guy that he knew as Werner and a guy that spoke German or Russian.
That turned out to be Werner Bruckhausen, a West German recently arrested who through a series of California shell companies like Universal Digital Corporation, which was simply a private residence, illegally shipped $10 million of high-tech equipment to the Russians. To get by customs, the equipment, computers, radar, and the like, were mislabeled ovens or washing machines, or not declared at all. Discovery of the Bruckhausen ring taught customs officials they had a problem, so they've increased their spot checking. They open more of the packages, and often confiscate things like these chips. But it's hard to stop the problem. Customs is understaffed. So many regulations have to be checked. And there's so much traffic in stolen goods.
I know people that work in the distribution business that supplement their income by slipping parts out the back door. I don't know. It's not going to Russia, no doubt. They're just selling them, you know, to someone in the United States.
And they might end up in Russia and they might not.
They could end up anywhere.
We don't know if all the companies buying and selling knew the goods were ending up in Russia. But many were eager to do business, no questions asked.
For the sake of short-term profits, there are people in this country, right in this valley, okay, who supposedly are responsible business leaders, captains of industry, that will throw it to anybody as long as they can get a short-term buck.
One company that kept appearing on the stolen goods trail, Republic of Virginia. Former Santa Clara Police Lieutenant Bob McDermott helped track the Intel chips.
Space Age Metals was dealing with Republic of Virginia. Mormac was dealing with Republic of Virginia. Lisatronics was dealing with Republic of Virginia.
There's no proof anyone at Republic knew anything about Russians or knew they were buying stolen chips. But when they were offered a good deal, they bought without asking questions.
The executive vice president of Republic writes, "I will not question how, why, or where. I'm not coy or timid to do this type of business." So he knows that these are stolen parts.
Really did. But you can't prove the intent.
Republic officials declined to be interviewed for this program. So thefts from Intel lead police to an international ring of high-tech traffickers and possible Soviet agents.
They just don't have one working in this valley. We can safely assume there are more that we don't even know about.
Vladimir Sakharov is a former KGB agent.
Down deep inside, they admire all American. Therefore, they believe that American technology is #1 in the world.
Sakharov became a double agent and worked for the CIA. He says the Soviets want to steal our technology simply because
It's cheaper to steal than to develop.
I went to the San Francisco consulate to try to talk to the Russians about all this. Usually the Russians simply ignore reporters who come by. But on this day, a man came out who said he was their English teacher. As the consulate's cameras watched, he said,
They seem to be hesitant to, you know, allow any kind of TV or discussion or something about it.
He said he tried to get them to talk to us, but they wouldn't. What about us Americans? What are we doing to protect our secrets? Well, the FBI put up billboards and ran radio commercials.
Hostile foreign intelligence services continue to be vitally interested in obtaining advanced U.S. technology. If you see this happening in your area, call the FBI.
And the companies are trying to protect themselves. They're worried about spies from other companies, perhaps more than the Russians. They have TV cameras, infrared sensors, and employees must wear badges. But there are still thefts because security isn't that good. Intel's security chief allowed me to take $1,000 worth of chips and try to leave the building. I hadn't even hidden the chips, but there's just one guard, and she's busy.
I seen you go out the door, but I didn't see what you had in your hand.
And yet this is $1,000 worth of chips.
That's correct.
It's pretty tough to catch people.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, I agree.
You ever catch anybody?
Yes, I do.
Why no metal detectors?
Now you're getting into a, an employee relations situation. It's we against they. I mean, an armed camp kind of environment. And, after all, we are a manufacturing firm. We're not Fort Knox.
And you might argue, why should they even try to be? Because in our open society, much of our latest technology is available anyway, for sale to anyone, at electronics and department stores. Even toys contain sophisticated chips. Not the very latest technology, but this toy Pac-Man game contains chips more sophisticated than those in many Russian weapons. The Russians can buy the toy and make a blueprint of the chips, but they don't yet have full capability to make use of the chips. Former KGB agent Sakharov.
Soviets have not had any substantial capabilities in putting the blueprints into production. That is, transposition of the blueprints into equipment and to sophisticated computers. They can't do it.
To do that, their scientists need to learn the latest technology. And some people say we're teaching it to them by letting them attend American universities. And it's true. Visit engineering seminars here at Stanford on the edge of Silicon Valley, and you find many students from communist countries. Some people say they shouldn't be allowed to study here.
But why?
Maybe you're a spy.
Of course, I decided to take engineering courses, not on political science or education or as African studies, no, only engineering. And
makes one think maybe you're a spy.
After our talking, I ought to be expired from the USA. Yeah? Because I can answer your question. I repeat this once again. I can prove that I'm not spy.
But are you a spy?
No, I'm not. I am a Fulbright scholar.
They're absorbing the very technology that we've talked about, and they will return to their countries, and they will be put to work on government military projects.
They take the information home and use it, maybe in the future, to kill us.
That's correct.
So you think we shouldn't let them in?
That's correct.
He may get his way. The government is now talking about restricting the free flow of ideas, forbidding some foreign scientists to come into the country, requiring American scientists to get licenses before they publish. And this has created a whole new controversy between government and universities. Here at Stanford, for example, the State Department wants to restrict what a visiting Russian scientist would get to see. Many officials here are furious about it. Professor Bernard Roth would have been the Stanford host for the Russian scientist.
The whole idea that somehow we have something hidden that he doesn't know is totally wrong.
You want to give him free access to what you know here.
People from all over the world discuss these things, and we learn a lot from them all the time. I've learned a lot. I've visited his laboratories. I've gotten a lot out of it.
But this is a man from a country that wants to steal our secrets.
I think that's a thing that's often confused. It's this idea of you'll find this one thing, you'll take it out of the safe, you'll take a picture of it, you'll take it back, and then you'll build this bomb, and you'll rule the world. Science doesn't work that way.
The debate continues. The CIA hasn't yet officially asked for restrictions, but that Russian scientist has postponed his visit here and may cancel it.
You know, what protection could there be for high technology of that kind?
Not much, really, because our society is so open, and we like it that way. It's one of our freedoms. Our best defense may be to hope that our scientists continue to invent things faster than the Russians can steal them.
Seems that way. Thank you, John.